All right, so the last section that we're going to cover out of chapter 20 is about Coulomb's law. Now, the rest of chapter 20 and all of chapter 21 we'll actually cover in AP Physics 2. It gets into a little bit more of electric potential and some other areas of electrostatics, but this is actually where we're going to end electrostatics with Coulomb's law. And Coulomb's law is going to give us a formula for determining the attractive or repulsive force for two charged objects. So it's going to give us a nice formula to be able to calculate that. So Coulomb's law is a very simple, familiar equation. Now, the reason it should be familiar is if we think back to when we talked about Newton's law of gravitation, the formula for that was G m1 m2 over r squared, where G is Newton's gravitational constant of 6.67 times 10 to the negative 11th Newton meter squared per kilogram squared. Mass 1 and mass 2 would be the mass of the two respective masses, if they're planets or whatever. And then r was their separation distance. Well, Coulomb's law states that if we have two charged particles, one's charge q1 and the other charge is q2, and they're a distance r apart, they will have a force on each other with this magnitude, k q1 q2 over r squared, where k is Coulomb's constant or the electrostatic constant of 8.99 times 10 to the 9th Newton meter squared per Coulomb squared. Instead, you can round k to 9 times 10 to the 9th, and that'll save your calculations a little bit. But we can see that this equation is actually almost identical. It is identical, except it has charge instead of mass, and a electrostatic constant instead of a gravitational constant. So this is very, very similar to that last formula. Now, what we see here is we see Q1 and Q2 are in absolute value brackets, and that's so that you can get the magnitude of the force. But here's my hint. If we get rid of those absolute value brackets and Q1 is positive and Q2 is positive, our answer is positive. Or if Q1 is negative and Q2 is negative, our answer is still positive. So if you get rid of the absolute value bars and we get a positive answer, well, a positive and a positive or a negative and a negative will repel. So we can also determine the direction of that force. If I have a positive for Q1 and a negative for Q2, or the opposite, a negative and a positive, my answer will be negative, and then my two charges will attract. So the direction is going to be along the line, like if I were to draw a line separating the two, it would be along that line of the two particles, and the forces can be repulsive or attractive depending on if they're opposite or if they are like charges. Now, Coulomb's law describes a couple different things. It describes the force between the two charges, and it'll give us that direction that force is going to point. And of course, back from Unit 2, we know that forces can cause acceleration. So we're going to focus mainly on just the magnitude of that force. So here I have Q1 and Q2. They have a charge. They are separated by some distance, and Coulomb's law will tell me the magnitude of the force that they experience. Now, they experience, according to Newton's third law, equal and opposite forces, right? So the force of 1 on 2 up here is going to be equal to the force of 2 on 1. So the length of these vectors are going to be the same. Even if I were to triple the magnitude of this charge, yes, this will get 3 times the force, but so will this one. They are going to experience the same force, just in opposite directions. So, like I said previously, Coulomb's law looks a lot like Newton's law for gravity, except instead of mass, we have charge. And the force can be attractive or repulsive, versus in gravity, it's only attractive. So the second part of Coulomb's law is going to be that opposite charges attract and like charges repel. So, or if you keep my absolute value bar thing hint, then you don't really have to worry about it, but your calculation then would be negatives would attract and positives would repel. Or you can just obviously know that it's a negative and a positive. Yeah, I can decide that those are attractive or whatever. All right, so when we use Coulomb's law, Coulomb's law is a force law, just like the gravitational law, and forces are vectors, so they have both magnitude and direction. So now we're talking about electric forces, and I could have multiple electric forces. So let's say I had a positive charge, and a negative charge. Well, I could look at Coulomb's law for several different situations. So let's look at this negative charge to start. Well, there's a positive charge attracting it, and there's another positive charge attracting it. Okay, did I draw this right? No, I did not. This charge from here to here is twice the distance, so it's going to have a quarter of the force. So let's say that this is my force from here to here. Now I drew this a little better, a quarter of the force. But then also we have multiple things going on here. This charge right here, charge 2, well, it's going to be repelled from this charge over here, so there's going to be a force going that way, and it's going to be attracted to this force over here, so there's a force going that way, and then there would be a net force going that way, right? So there's multiple forces that could be acting, and we could solve for the net force. Now, we're not going to do much of this in Physics 2. We come back and do a little bit more, but it is just like in Unit 2 when we had multiple forces acting on one object. So I got a quick check here. Charge of sphere 2 right here is shown. It's this guy right here. What's the charge of sphere 1? Well, according to Newton's third law, we have equal and opposite, so therefore B is the correct answer. It must have the same magnitude of force going in the opposite direction because of Newton's third law. All right, here's another quick check. Sphere 2 is twice as sphere 1, which happens when I split the distance in half. So we know that Coulomb's law, it's the electric force, is K, Q1, Q2 over R squared. So if I half R squared, I am not going to double the force. I am going to quadruple the force because it's squared. So whatever 4 times this is, it is D. Why is it D? Because this guy right here it's only twice as long. It needs to be 4 times the magnitude of the force. All right, another quick check. Which of the 3 right-hand charges experiences the largest force? So I got to remember, Fe is K, Q1, Q2 over R squared. So in example 1, we have Q, Q, and R. So let's just call that F. In 2, we have Q, 2Q, and 2R. So I have twice the numerator, but I have, well, it's twice the distance, but that would be squared. So I have 1/4 on the denominator. So 2 or 1/4, I get half the force as my initial one. Now I have Q, 4Q, and 2R. So now I have 4 times the numerator, and I still have 1/4 the denominator. So I'm going to get F, which means that this guy right here and this guy right here are in fact tied. They're equal forces. Another quick check, if at each of the following cases an identical small positive charge is placed at the black dot, in which case is the force on the small charge the largest? So if I put a positive charge right here, I'm going to get a repulsive force that way, and this is going to want to attract it. The force on the right, it's going to want to attract it. So if I were to look at it, I have that repulsive force and the attractive force. In case B, I have an attractive force, and if it's a positive charge, I have somewhat of a repulsive force. It should be 1/4 the size because it's twice the distance away, so that's not going to be the most. C, well, I have a repulsive force and a larger repulsive force, a small repulsive force for this guy, a large repulsive force for this guy, but not quite as powerful as A. And D, what's going to happen at D? Well, there's an attractive force here and an attractive force here. So my net force in case D is going to be 0. So that's not it. So A is our correct answer, as it was obviously already marked. The largest net force. All right, now in the direction, if we're looking at negative Q here, well, since it's going to experience, since there are 2 charges, there is going to be an attractive force and there's going to be a repulsive force. And my question is, which one should be bigger? Well, this charge is closer, so the repulsive force should be slightly larger, so it'll move to the right. And that is the direction of the net force. All right, we got an example problem. I have 2 positive 10 nanocoulombs charge particles are 2 centimeters apart, what's the net force on a 1 nanocoulomb charge midway between them? So I have 10 nanocoulombs charge, and I have another 10 nanocoulomb charge. Sorry, I made a square on that one. That didn't really make sense, but I didn't do it too well. And they're 2 centimeters apart, or, of course, 0.02 meters. And there is a 1 nanocoulomb charge, positive. The other two are also positive, right? Just keep that in mind. In the middle. And what's going to happen? What's the net force? Well, according to Coulomb's, well, let's finish this off. That means this is 1 centimeter apart, and this is 1 centimeter apart. So there's a repulsive force that this guy pushes that way, but there's another repulsive force that this guy will push this way. And what's true about those forces? Well, they're going to cancel out. So they're going to cancel out, and my net force will be, for 1 nanocoulomb charge midway between, is going to be 0. Now, what happens if the one on the right is replaced by a negative charge? Well, then that changes things, right? Because I still have the 10 nanocoulomb on the left pushing it to the right, but now I'm also going to have an attractive force pulling it to the right. So here's a better visual. Here was case A, which I did in the last picture. Here's case B. So I have two forces adding together. And since it's 1 nanocoulomb here and 10 nanocoulombs and 10 nanocoulombs, I can actually just do the calculation once and then double it, because it's going to be an attractive force right here and a repulsive force from here, but they're going to be the same magnitude. So if I go ahead and plug that in, then I get, for one of them, I get 9 times 10 to the negative 4th newtons. So if I multiply that by 2, I get 1.8 times 10 to the negative 3rd newtons to the right. All right, what about this guy? I have a positive charge and a negative charge, and there's a positive charge in the middle. So there's going to be a force right here pushing it that way. There's going to be a force pulling it this way. So since these are equally spaced in between, my x components are going to cancel out, and the direction of the charge at the top is going to be d. It's going to only move to the right because the x components are going to cancel out. Here's a better picture than what I just did. We have the force here, and the net force would be d. Got another little conceptual example. We can use the concept then of Newton's law and the force, because it is a field force, and we can combine that with some concepts such as gravity. So here we have a small plastic sphere is charged to negative 10 nanocoulombs, which is right at the top. It's held 1 centimeter above a glass bead, and that bead, the bead has a mass of 15 milligrams and a charge of 10 nanocoulombs. Will the glass leap up to the plastic sphere? So there is a opposite charge going on, which means that there's going to be an electric field going up, or electric force going up, and there's going to be weight going down. And our question is which one's larger? If the weight is larger, then all the electric force is doing is decreasing this normal force. If the electric force is larger, then it could actually overcome the weight and pick it up. So our electric force, is 9 times 10 to the negative 3rd newtons, and our weight is 1.5 times 10 to the negative 4th. So which one's larger? Right here, the electric force. So this glass bead can actually leap up off the table to this plastic bead. And you might be thinking that that's not possible. And have you ever picked up a magnet with another magnet without touching it? Sure, you just slide it over the table and it jumps up. Well, this is the exact same concept, except instead of having to do with magnetism, it has to do with electric charges. So that is actually all that we're going to be talking about with electrostatics, which might seem really short, and it is. There's so much more we can talk about, and we do that in physics too. But for physics 1, this is an introduction to electrostatics, and then our next chunk we're going to go into is DC circuits. So instead of looking at charge with attraction and repulsion, we're going to change gears and we're going to talk about the flow of charge otherwise known as current. And we'll take a look at that in the next segment.